Humans, as a species, are very prone to psychological manipulation. Thoughts and actions are not always made with complete free will. The myriad of highs and lows that humans experience can be easily manipulated and skewed by perspective. The greatest of psychological manipulators will trick their victims into believing that this falsehood is good and true, the only thing that is good and true, deifying the lie. George Orwell is a renowned writer, author of many novels. The most infamous by far would be 1984, a culmination of most of Orwell's ideas and beliefs after being refined over years of writing them down. A text that contrasts and complements 1984 would be the ultra-violent immersive sim, Cruelty Squad, created by Finnish artist Ville Kallio, notorious for his grotesque and profound artworks critical of modern society, not too dissimilar to Orwell's writing. This secondary text resonates with 1984 whilst remaining to contrast it in certain aspects that highlight my point. At first they may appear fundamentally opposed, however they have more in common than it may seem, possessing common ideas presented in opposing ways, such as psychological control, the maintenance of an imbalanced system of stimulation, and religious idealism. The world of 1984 is ruled by an oligarchical regime dedicated to maintaining its own power over its people. Known only as the Party, this regime maintains totalitarian control over its people through psychological manipulation, using propaganda, the grooming of children, and the deification of their figurehead, Big Brother. One goal of this psychological manipulation is to eliminate any form of individual identity. This is obvious and visible in the illegalization of alternative thought. Thought crime, it's called, as well as the unorthodoxy placed on own life, all terms that exist within Newspeak. Newspeak being a language intentionally designed to limit actualization and therefore understanding of thoughts in speech. Another facet of the party's manipulation of the mind is the idolization of Big Brother and how he is described. Big Brother is said to be all-knowing, all-seeing, all-intelligent, and all-good. These things manifest through the always watching telescreens, analyzing citizens for flaws, and the rewriting of historic events, making all Big Brother says retroactive fact. This description is that of God, and Big Brother is worshipped as such during and after hate sessions, where his enemies are hissed at and he is revered, as citizens chant his initials. O'Brien even says,
"You must love. It's not enough to obey. You must love."
Enforcing patriotic zealotry. This is all by design. The party has intentionally created an unofficial religion to unify the people of Oceania in blind worship, while exterminating non-conforming thought criminals to prevent the spread of disbelief to Big Brother. This is a very overt state of control, at least to those with the benefit of not existing within this controlled state. Today's people can point at 1984 and easily pick apart the failings in logic and blindness of the depicted people. Remark at how obvious all these issues are, and how silly it is that these people cannot see what is clearly right in front of them. Is this because society today is too smart and immune to being manipulated on this scale? Not exactly.
Overabundance of life.
Cruelty Squad at first glance would seem to be the opposite of 1984, not just in visuals, but in that everyone has total freedom and total individualism, with any group identity present being no larger than a few hundred. Of course, looking closer reveals the strings and the puppet master pulling them. The world of Cruelty Squad is also under totalitarian control, not by the government, but by the economy, at the head of which sits the aptly named Control, an obvious inference to the role they play. Control hides in plain sight and employs a much more normalized form of propaganda, advertising. The advertising scene shows how Control manipulates people's desires, promising simple and extreme concepts such as punishment and power, absolute highs in human experience. Control uses addiction to maintain its flow of income, creating an indulgence culture based around having as much as possible, whether it be money, sex, or even status, making what would be considered overblown extremes the norm. Control has also sold literal immortality, which encourages people to continue looking for the next high, forever, never fully satiated because Control lets them know they can always have more through their advertising. This indulgent culture is a direct parody of modern-day culture and the harmful belief that you must be productive or have an excess of something in order to have value. Cruelty Squad features a world obsessed with monetary gain. One character, encountered early on, is Sigismund, the CEO of a pharmaceutical agency who has become a little too invested in cryptocurrency.
Vilgrim, I am money.
I am God!
What's worth noting here is the way Sigismund uses the words money and God almost interchangeably, like they have the same meaning. To advance this point further, the level Mall Madness, which takes place in a supermall, features stylized church bells in its soundtrack. This implies that money is deemed godly, and shopping centers are its places of worship. The dystopian nature of Cruelty Squad is clearly visible. However, the specifics of why it is wrong aren't all easy to point out without contradiction of today's world. The nature of the setting is familiar, but exaggerated and warped. It's hyperbolic. Perhaps if the people of England in 1948 were to bear witness to this capitalist horror, they'd be able to pick it apart pretty easily. "1984 and Cruelty Squad in function are entirely different. You would assume that there would be no connection at all, with one being a dark gothic parody of the government surveillance state of 1948, and the other being an eye-bleeding, grotesque parody of modern economic monopoly. In reality, these texts are the same in substance. Most differences between them are due to circumstance. When it comes to specifics, the system of control is entirely different, but the method of control is the same. The normalization of the unjust system that allows the ruling entity to hold its power. The party normalizes its rule through propaganda and the annihilation of individual thought. Control maintains its power through advertising and the annihilation of collective thought. Both ruling forces also use a similar manipulation of human experiences to enforce their rule. The party intentionally destroys resources to plateau quality of life, and enforce harsh restrictions that discourage emotional expression to keep people in a catatonic state, making them easier to command. Control feeds extreme excess directly to the populace, providing everything they could need and more, and encouraging them to continue seeking more to propagate the process. Creating systems based around extreme lows in experience and extreme highs respectively. A key part of these systems is the paradoxical contradiction they are told. In 1984, the impoverished people are told they have more than they could ever need, so they don't attempt to grow. While in Cruelty Squad, the people who have an excess of every resource are told they don't have enough and should seek to acquire more so they don't become complacent. To further cement the function of the systems put in place, the ruling organizations go beyond normalization to deification. These systems could be compared to two twisted versions of real-world religions, Christianity and Buddhism. The church-esque company known as Ingzok bears worship to their savior, Big Brother, the promise to the people being, if they love and worship Big Brother, they will have access to a state of perfect harmony and peace, heaven. The people of Cruelty Squad dedicate all their time to practices they have been told will allow them to break the cycle of infinite reincarnation to a peaceful life of enlightenment and stability, nirvana. This can also be seen in used language. Saint, heresy, martyr are all used in 1984, while Godhead, ascendant, divine are all used in Cruelty Squad. In 1984, people chant in unison in tribute to Big Brother. In Cruelty Squad, people wish for the stock market to rise and fall at the perfect time. Both actions are comparable to prayer. The religious nature of these systems further discourages deviation, as it makes nonconformists not just different, but wrong. It would be difficult to say that 1984 and Cruelty Squad are wildly different. Both texts convey how people can be manipulated with subtle or overt psychological manipulation. Both made for their own time, 1984 and Cruelty Squad show a grim possible outcome for a lack of change, leading to loss of control of one's own actions and thoughts. The systems put in place by the ruling forces of each world are both based around manipulation of experiences and emotions. One maintaining an absolute low at all times, denying knowledge of anything greater to prevent people seeking more. The other maintains an absolute high at all times, and misinforms the people they are only scratching the surface to keep them buying. Ultimately, these systems would not be solidified in the law of their worlds if they were not worshipped as holy. It could feel easy to point at the failings of bygone or fictional people and call them idiots, but we were not brought up in their time. We have a different perspective. Ultimately, this shows that people will always be vulnerable to psychological manipulation. The only thing that generates a resistance to psychological manipulation is the ability to analyze and critically think based on previous experiences. If someone experiences nothing but absolute highs or lows their whole life, they cannot find middle ground or form comparison. Through psychological manipulation, people in this state can be directed to maintaining the cycle and tricked into believing that what they are experiencing is a balanced life of highs and lows, despite its disproportionate nature.
Tell me, Winston, and remember, no lies. What are your true feelings towards Big Brother? I hate him.
Wouldn't it be funny if you just went in there and killed them all? Imagine their faces behind those stupid masks. If you board their high beast right in front of them. Oh my god, you should do it, don't you think? It would really make your day. They're automatons. They have no souls. Think about it.